Well, what we have right here, of course, looks like a mess right now. It's basically a raised bed, no soil in it, and a lot of compost we've been putting in. We're going to do a process today that's called layered gardening, or a very well-known garden writer wrote a book called lasagna gardening. On top of the compost, we are going to put what looks like straw, but these are really just cuttings and clippings from my ornamental grasses, which are going to go on top of the compost. After that, we're going to put 3 bags of garden soil, about a cubic foot worth, and then on top of that, we're going to put a layer of cocoa shell, or cocoa coir, which comes in a very large bale, which you see right here. It's about a 5-pound bale, easily turns into 2.5 cubic feet of soil when water is added to it, and that's going to give us a multi-layered garden, and we're going to see how that works this year for tomatoes. So stand by, and we'll be right back. Okay, now we've added that layer of straw-like material, cuttings from grasses, and we're going to go ahead and dump on about a cubic foot of soil on top of that, and then we'll finish it off with the cocoa fiber. And we're going to keep adding stuff all season long. The straw here will take the longest part to break down because it's, of course, a very heavy carbaceous or carbon-based material, but as we add organic matter and leaf clippings and a lot of nitrogen sources, that'll break it down. Theory behind this is to have an active compost pile instead of waiting for the compost to finish. An active compost pile has a much higher population of microorganisms and critters that really break everything down. So we're going to go on the assumption that an active compost pile will make the plants stronger, more efficient use of fertilizer, and also increase the insect and disease resistance. Okay, the soil's been placed on top of the straw. As you see, it doesn't mix in 100%, but that's okay. And we see one of the little beneficial boogers right in there. If you can see him crawling around, there's a pill bug in there moving around. So you see the pill bugs, those guys are good. Can't quite get them on camera here. Just look around a little bit, see if you can see him. There he is. He's crawling around right about there. Pill bugs are indications that your compost pile is active. And we got 3 cubic feet of soil here that we've just put on top of the straw. As best we could spread it around. Doesn't have to be perfect. And here we have the cocoa coir block being wet down with water. It's going to take about 15 or 20 minutes for this to totally soak up and absorb it. You can see we're pulling off fresh cocoa coir as it gets wet. And if you haven't used cocoa coir, you're really missing the boat on a dynamic soil product. This 5-pound block of cocoa coir will make 2.5 cubic feet of soil mix, and unlike peat moss, it doesn't float. It stays wet, distributes moisture even, and much more viable product to use than peat moss. Peat moss, very overrated. Not an environmental situation with peat moss like a lot think, but cocoa is so much better. And we'll show you what that looks like. And here's what the garden bed looks like, all finished, covered with the cocoa moss, which is sitting on top of 3 cubic feet of nice Jolly Gardener garden soil. Really good company out of Maine, maybe up in Canada now, who knows where they are. And then finally the cocoa moss on top, and underneath it all is a layer of active compost that we've been building up for a while. And we've got some good earthworms in there, some pill bugs, and others chomping on all that organic matter, making the fertilizers work better. So it's a garden bed about 4 inches tall, with about 2-inch layer of compost, followed by a 2 to 3 inch layer of ornamental grass cuttings, which look like straw. On top of that, some garden soil. And finally, 2.5 cubic feet of cocoa coir. And this is where we're going to plant our tomatoes this year. We're going to put in 4 heirloom varieties just to see what they do and see if we can finally get some nice tomatoes from the old-fashioned varieties for a change.